Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. Okay, so a few things I want to say before I get into today's story. Um, First of all, that song I just sang, I don't know why it came to mind. I was trying to think of something that had to do with, those were the days kind of thing. And as I sang it, because part of the song is like once upon a time there was a tavern, and it reminded me of the Swickley Hotel that we used to go to when I was in college. And I have a story about that, but that's not the story I was planning to tell. So I'll just tell you that that'll be a story for another day, maybe my next video. And I might be wearing the same shirt because if I'm in the mood, I might record that one right after this story. The other thing I wanted to mention was I'm going to try. It's funny, I've been trying to think of like anecdotes that I could tell, like short videos. I've had a couple people tell me that the videos they like best are the ones where I talk about things from my life. Now, I don't know if that's a general consensus because I've only had a couple of people tell me anything about my videos. But since they're the ones that brought it up, I'll just pretend that's the majority of you. And I'm also going to try to, I know I've mentioned before about keeping them short. I thought like real short things, quick little stories. The funny thing is, I know I've got stories, but when I sit and try to think of something interesting, I have trouble coming up with them. And so I did think of one today from college. Now this one needs a little bit of I forget the word I want, a disclaimer, a little disclaimer too, because the story makes me sound like more of a badass than I actually am or was. Something I've explained to people before is those of you who've known me know that when I was younger, I think I was a little more impressive looking, you know, bigger, stronger. And the thing is, I never really was much of a badass, to tell the truth, un- unless unless my trigger got flipped. And well, we won't get into it, but yeah, there were times I could live up to my hype. But mostly, what I used to do was bluff because I could get away with it from the way I looked. You know, if you got 4 inches and 100 pounds on somebody and you threaten to kick their ass, odds are they're not going to test it. You know, I've told people before, if you've got someone who like confronts three guys and they say, I'm going to kick all your asses, there's like three possibilities. One, they can actually do it. Two, they're bluffing. Three, they're crazy. Now, anybody with any sense knows you don't want to mess with a guy who can really do it, and nobody wants to mess with crazy people. So, if you're like me and bluffing, you got a 2 out of 3 chance of getting away with it. Anyway, but that brings us to today's story. We used to, when I was going to college, we'd have this problem sometimes with the locals who would come on campus and try to steal our women folk. And the one time, and I know it was in the winter time, and a bunch of folks were sliding down this one hill outside the one dorm, and some locals came, and I forget exactly what they were doing, but one of my friends came to me and said, "Hey, Muck, these guys are over here causing trouble." And I remember I went walking by. I sort of started off by there was one of them standing at the top of the hill. And I went walking by, and they just gave him a push, and he went head first down the hill. And I could see him sort of looking back, trying to see who did it. And then after a bit, and there was I know there was at least three of the guys. I don't know if there was more, and a couple of them disappeared or not. But so there was three of them there, and that one that I pushed came back up the hill, and he was all mad and stuff, and looking around. And I don't remember exactly what all happened there, but it ended up with me having one guy under each arm, like around the neck, and I was escorting them away. Another guy had taken off, and so there was like five of us leading these guys off of campus. And we came up and we are coming, I could hear as we're coming up around one of the dorms. The guy who had taken off, I could hear him talking to somebody else. And you know how you could catch bits of the conversation and could hear him saying, something about, oh, some assholes came after us and, they're coming. And could hear the one guy going, well, we're going to settle things here or something like that. And you could hear him talking tough. And then, about 30 seconds later, we came around the side of the building as they were walking back down towards where the confrontation had taken place. And at first, a couple of my buddies, were like ahead and could hear that same voice of the guy, the tough guy, like going like, something along the lines. Now you got to remember this story is over 40 years old, so details sometimes escape. But he was basically like, "The hell do you people think you're doing?" These guys are friends of mine, And he was, again, you could still hear the Mr. Tough Guy in his voice. And then about then, I came around the corner of the building with, three or four more of my friends, and I had those two guys under my arms. And came around, and the guy who was obviously Mr. Tough Guy was like, just sort of like, oh. And all of a sudden, his attitude changed. And he was like, instead of like, what the hell's going on? It's like, what's going on? And I said, some of your asshole friends were here causing trouble. And the conversation probably went on for a minute or so, but basically it ended with him saying, well, I'll take them home. So it's just sort of funny how tough people can be until they're actually confronted. And of course, the funny thing about it is that guy, now I know I obviously had a couple inches on the guy and stuff, but it's very possible he could have kicked my ass. But once again, I was able to get away with it just because I looked like I could. By the way, this stuff seems to be working. And, again, we don't allow any kind of advertising on here, but, Mucinex. If it doesn't say Mucinex, I don't know what the rest of that would be. But it seems to help. Or it's just coincidence and the cold was easing off anyway. But thank you to the anonymous fan who sent me that. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that little story from you from my college days. Um, Definitely going to have to tell you a little bit about the Swickley Hotel, especially how it relates to my 21st birthday. That'll be coming up soon. And man, there was something else I just thought of along the lines of what we were talking about. And I hate when I'm uploading the video and I think, oh, I totally meant to mention this. But anyway, yeah, that was kind of my life as a tough guy was like 80% bluff. And then there were times I actually scared myself. I'll just say this. I'm not going to go into any of the stories about it, but you know, two cliches you hear people mention is he saw red or you have tunnel vision. And I always thought those were just, a turn of phrase. But I've had both those things happen to me. Uh, Even at the same time, I can remember one time I had total tunnel vision. All I could see was the assholes in front of me, and there actually was like a red haze over my vision. And if it wasn't for some female intervention, who knows what would have happened. But that's a whole nother thing. Like I said, mostly I just bluffed my way through things, and um, don't really want to be a violent person anyway. So guys, that's it for today. I actually went longer than I thought I would, but at least I'm under the 15-minute mark. So peace out. See you tomorrow.